Every single investor has that dream, right? To find a stock just before it goes on an absolute tear. Well, today we're going to do more than just dream. We're actually going to break down a blueprint, a framework that can help you spot those exact moments. But how do you actually do it? I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's what keeps traders up at night. How do you find that rocket ship before it leaves the launch pad? Where's that ignition point? Well, the answer, at least according to this framework, is actually a pretty simple but really powerful equation. It all comes down to combining two critical forces. First, you need a strong sector theme. And second, you need a clean technical setup on the chart. Think about it like this. The theme, that's the rocket fuel. But the technical setup, that's the launch pad. You absolutely need both to get that explosive combination. Okay, this visual here really brings that formula to life, doesn't it? So on one side, you've got your sector strength. That's the big picture story, the narrative that gets everyone excited. Then on the other side, you have the technical setup. That's the chart pattern that's basically telling you that big money might be quietly getting into position. And when those two things come together, boom, right there in the middle, that's the ignition point. That's exactly what we're hunting for.
This also brings up a really crucial point. You have to know where to look. There's an old saying, there's always a bull market somewhere. And this chart is a perfect example of that. While all the big name indexes might be just chopping around, going sideways, you can see right here that small caps are quietly starting to break out. So the key takeaway, you've got to follow the money, not just the headlines.
All right, so let's put this blueprint to the test, shall we? In this first part, we're going to look at 4 different stocks that look like they're primed for ignition. Okay, first up, we have Lumen Technologies, or LUMN. And what we're seeing here is just a classic cup and handle pattern. Now, this is a pattern that often signals a really powerful continuation of an uptrend. You can see the cup right there, where the stock formed this big rounding bottom. And now, you see the handle forming? That's where it's consolidating, kind of shaking out the weaker investors. Oh, and look at that rising volume down there. That's a big clue that institutions might be quietly buying this thing up. So let's go ahead and apply our formula. What's the theme? It's fiber optics, a supercritical tech sector. What's the setup? Well, it's that textbook cup and handle we just talked about. So what's left? We're just watching for the trigger. And in this case, it's a decisive, convincing move above that handle. If that happens, that's the signal that the consolidation is probably over and the next big move could be starting. All right, next up we have Wayfair, ticker WAFIR. Now this one is interesting because it shows a different stage of the process. Check this out. It already built a massive base. It broke out, and then it came back and successfully retested that breakout level. That's a huge sign of strength. And now you can see it coiling up again, just building up energy like a spring for what could be its next major leg high. So let's apply the formula again, right? The theme here is retail and home goods. That's a sector that really seems to be waking up as people's spending habits are changing. And the setup? It's this monster stage 1 base, which basically means months and months of accumulation. So the trigger we'd be looking for is a move that clears those recent highs. That would be the confirmation that this stock is ready to start trending again. Okay, let's shift gears to a younger company, SERV Robotics, ticker SRV. Now, this one is building out its first major base since it went public, since its IPO. And just look at the volume down there at the bottom. See those huge spikes while the price is basically flat? That is often what we call the footprints of large institutions. They're quietly buying up shares before the rest of the market really catches on. And a theme here, I mean, come on, robotics. It has just massive long-term potential, right? So that's our rocket fuel. The launch pad, it's this big IPO base it's been building. So a breakout above that descending trend line that you can see on the chart, that would be the first major signal that a brand new uptrend is getting started. All right, our last one for this section is American Battery Technology, or ABAT. And this chart shows a classic move called a shakeout. Look right there at that area labeled undercut. See how the price just dips below that key support level? It's designed to scare out all the nervous investors. But here's the key. It quickly reclaims that level. And that is often an incredibly bullish sign. It means all the weak hands are gone, and it clears the path for a potential move higher. So what do we have? You've got the super hot theme of battery tech, and you combine that with this powerful undercut and reclaim setup. The only thing missing, the final piece of the puzzle, would be the breakout. That's a move above the recent consolidation that would confirm the shakeout is officially over and a new uptrend is kicking off. Okay, so we've seen the setups, we've seen what to look for. Now for the fun part, the proof. In part 2, we're going to look at 3 examples of breakouts that are already in motion and followed this exact blueprint.
So our first case study here is Kratos Defense, ticker KTOS. What's so fascinating here is what happened before the big move. Take a look inside that blue box. See how the price action just got super, super tight? And then look at the arrow below pointing to the volume. It completely dried up. That is a classic sign that a stock is coiling. It means all the sellers have disappeared right before major move.
I mean, this is our formula in action, plain and simple. You had the powerful theme, right? Defense and security. That provided the whole narrative. Then you had the perfect technical setup, that tight consolidation, the volume drying up, basically screaming that the sellers were gone. And the result? Well, it was almost inevitable. An absolutely explosive breakout on a massive wave of new buying.
Wow, okay, this slide is a perfect illustration of a fundamental market principle. Compression leads to expansion. So for weeks, this stock, Compass, just traded in this incredibly tight range. It was building up energy, just like a coiled spring. And then, bam, release. A powerful gap up on enormous volume. That, right there, is the spring uncoiling. So let's break down what happened here. First, the real estate tech sector started getting hot. That gave us the story, the theme. Then the stock gave us that beautiful tight compression pattern, which was basically signaling, hey, I'm just pausing before my next big move. And the result? That explosive gap up. That was the market telling us loud and clear that the next major trend had officially begun.
All right, our final proof point here comes from ONDS Holdings, ticker ONDS. You can see it really clearly. It formed this clean wedge pattern, just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. The breakout from that pattern, especially on that huge surge of volume, was basically the starting gun for a major new trend. And this just goes to show you how a really cutting-edge technology narrative, in this case private networks and drones, can really fuel a technical breakout. You can see the initial target was hit, and the fact that volume kept pouring in suggests this thing could be a market leader for the year. It's the same story, right? The theme gave it the fuel, and the technical setup gave it the launch pad. Okay, so let's pull this all together. Let's take a look at the entire blueprint, all at a glance. And there it is, the complete watch list all laid out. Up top, you've got the 4 setups that we're calling primed. They're coiled up, just waiting for their trigger. And then down below, you have the 3 that are already in motion, which act as proof that this blueprint actually works. So what this gives you is both a list of fresh ideas to watch right now and some great case studies you can learn from. So look, if you take just one thing away from all this, let it be this simple, repeatable process. It's a mantra. Find the theme. That's your story. Find the setup. That's your launchpad. When you put those 2 together, you've found the potential for an explosive combination. The only question left is, what are you going to find next?